Hi everyone, welcome back. Today we are diving into the second article. This one is all about Novice teacher identity, and I used Notebook LM to power the analysis.
Okay, we've all heard it, right? The first few years of teaching are tough. But what does that actually look like? What really goes on behind the classroom door during that 3-year journey? Well, today we're going to peel back the curtain and see how new teachers grow, change, and really figure out who they are professionally. All right, so let's start with the basics. If I say novice teacher, what pops into your head? It seems like a pretty simple term, doesn't it? The official definition, the one you'll see in all the research, is just anyone in their first 3 years on the job. Super simple. It just kind of throws them all into one big bucket.
But hold on a second. Does that really make sense? I mean, is a teacher who's, 2 months in, really the same as someone who's rounding the corner on year 3? No way, right? And that is the big question we're digging into today.
And this is where we get to what some researchers are starting to call the novice teacher myth. It's this idea that maybe, just maybe, lumping all new teachers together isn't just simple, it's flat out wrong. That this one-size-fits-all approach is actually holding educators back.
So to get to the bottom of this, we're going to look at a really cool study that took a totally different approach. Instead of looking at a huge group, they got personal. They followed 3 new English teachers in Iran, each one at a different point in that 3-year window, to see what their stories actually looked like side by side.
All right, so let's meet our 3 teachers. Their journeys are going to give us a real, on-the-ground look at what this whole process is all about.
Okay, so we've got Sahel, who's brand new, first year. Then there's Delaram, who's in year 2. And finally, Nahal, our 3rd-year veteran. Now, here's the really important part. They all work in the exact same environment, a private language school. This is awesome for the study because it means we can really zero in on how experience, and only experience, changes things. But you know what's interesting? Before their stories started to look different, they all began in a very similar spot. The study found they were all dealing with the same kinds of struggles that honestly probably sound really familiar to anyone who's ever taught.
First up is something called emotion labor. It's basically all that invisible work you do to manage your own feelings, To put on the right face for your students, for parents, for your boss, even when you're not feeling it.
And Sahel, our year 1 teacher, just nails it with this quote. She said, "I have to show a positive face when I face the parents. It is not what I really feel." Wow. That gap between how you actually feel and how you're supposed to act, that was something all 3 of them were wrestling with.
They also all ran into what the study calls agency conflicts. It's a fancy term, but it's really simple. It's those moments where you feel like your hands are tied, like you can't be the teacher you want to be because of stuff outside your control. You know the drill. Way too many textbooks, not nearly enough time, students all over the map with their skill levels, and on top of it all, that nagging fear that people think you don't know what you're doing. Yeah, that was a big one for all 3 of them. Okay, so they all started in the same boat. But this is where things get really interesting. Because even though they were all dealing with the same stuff, the study found that with every year that passed, their paths started to split. And not just a little bit, they went in dramatically different directions. Just look at what was driving them. For Sahel, our first-year teacher, it was all about connecting with students and earning the trust of her bosses. She just wanted to feel like she belonged. Now, fast forward to Nahal in year 3, her motivation, totally different. It's about the bottom line. She's thinking, hey, I need to make a living. This job has to pay the bills.
And their big picture ambitions, they changed too. Sahel's dream is to become this famous, go-to expert teacher. It's all about her personal reputation. But Nahal, after 3 years in the trenches, her dream is to run her own school. Why? So she can fix all the problems she had to deal with. Her goal went from personal glory to wanting to change the whole system.
And maybe the most mind-blowing difference is how they pushed back against the system. Sahel, in year 1, her resistance was, it was moral. It was just about doing what she felt was the right thing in the moment. Then you get to Delaram in year 2. Her resistance was more about protecting her sanity. She'd get frustrated by big changes like new textbooks because they messed with her routine. But Nahal, by year 3, was playing a completely different game. Her resistance was political. She'd complain about policies with her coworkers, but she knew better than to say anything to the administration. She was protecting her job, her image. You see what's happening? Even the way they resist changes and matures over time.
So, what's the big takeaway here? What do these 3 very different stories tell us? Well, at the end of the day, it forces us to completely rethink how we're supporting our new teachers.
The conclusion from the study is pretty much undeniable. This whole idea that all novices are equal, that a first-year teacher needs the same thing as a third-year teacher, it just falls apart. It's not true. Their needs, what drives them, who they are as professionals, it's changing like all the time.
So if that's the problem, what's the solution? The study suggests something called identity-based novice teacher development. And all that really means is we need to stop with the cookie-cutter support. We need systems that are personalized, that actually meet teachers where they are, support that literally grows and evolves right alongside them. And that leaves us with a really big question to chew on. It's one thing to say, okay, every teacher's journey is different. That's the easy part. The hard part, the real challenge, is figuring out how we actually build support systems that can honor that uniqueness and truly help every single new teacher on their own individual path.